There are places on this planet that should not exist, and yet somehow they do. A wooden monastery glued to a cliff 1,000 feet above a canyon floor, with nothing but faith and old timber holding it in place. A cluster of bright painted houses at the frozen far edge of Russia, raised on stilts because their own warmth would melt the ground out from under them. One road that folds back on itself through 600 turns before it finally lets you breathe. These are impossible places, the most remote and extreme corners of Earth. And nearly all of them come with the same quiet warning from the people who know them best: do not visit. We are going to visit anyway. Together, we will cross a grass bridge that is rewoven by hand every single year, then cut loose and dropped into the river below as an offering. We will stand where a salt crust heals its own cracks. And where a thin film of water turns the whole ground into a mirror of the sky. Some of these are sacred sites of ancient pilgrimage. Others are forbidden zones where no one is coming to rescue you. If you have ever wanted to reach the edge of the world without leaving your chair, subscribe now and let this 4K travel documentary take you there. Mount Etna towers over the island of Sicily in Italy, the tallest active volcano in Europe and one that never truly settles. Its exact height keeps shifting, nudged up and knocked back by one eruption after the next. From far off, the mountain looks like it is breathing dark smoke, drifting off the summit into the Mediterranean sky. More than 300 smaller vents pocket slopes, which means an eruption can break out almost anywhere, not only at the peak. Etna has rumbled through hundreds of recorded eruptions, redrawing its own outline every time it stirs. Climb its flanks, and you meet a contrast that stops you cold. Jet black volcanic ground on one side, patches of frozen snow on the other. For a moment, you stand on the seam between deep winter and something much closer to a furnace. Lake Titicaca, 12,500 feet above sea level, and in the middle of it, islands that shouldn't float. They're not rock, not concrete, not anchored to anything. The Uros people built them by hand from totora reeds, thick grass that grows in the lake, bundled roots, floating mats, layer pressed on layer until it holds the weight of a house. About 2,000 people live on them today. Houses of reeds, boats of reeds. The floor beneath you, reeds. The island is always slowly sinking from below, while being rebuilt from above. If the work stops for long enough, the floor starts to feel different underfoot. Softer, less solid. Leave it longer, and it goes under. It has happened. A floor goes soft over a few days. One corner dips toward the water. The family rebuilds. The other islands notice, but don't say much. Then the work resumes. So the work never stops. An old woman adds fresh reeds to the edge while a child watches. No ceremony, just the work. The Uros originally fled here to escape the Inca expansion. Out on the water, they were mobile, unreachable, safe. They never went back to land. If you visit someone, hands you a piece of raw reed to chew. It has a slight sweetness. Children grow up on islands that are literally made of food. There are solar panels now on some islands. A few families have small televisions. The reed floor is still the reed floor, just with an extension cord running across it. Around 87 inhabited floating islands on Lake Titicaca. The number changes slightly every year. Now, an illusion. From the air off the coast of Mauritius, the ocean looks like it's draining. A vast pale plume seems to pour off the edge of a shelf and plunge into a dark blue abyss, as if the sea itself is collapsing through a hole in its own floor. It looks like something a ship could fall into. Nothing is falling. The water stays exactly where it is. What you're seeing is sand and silt. The island sits on a shallow underwater shelf that drops away sharply into deep ocean, and currents drag sediment over that edge down the slope in a steady cascade. From above, the moving sand reads as falling water, a waterfall with no water in it. Generations of local fishermen looked at that dark drop-off and decided it was a doorway you don't go near. Hard to blame them. One of the most unusual natural wonders in the Indian Ocean. stay in the desert heat, but trade the open horizon for something almost invisible. In Arizona, you could walk past this place and never realize it's there. No mountain, no dramatic cliff, just a narrow split in the ground. Then you step inside. The walls close around you, and suddenly, the desert disappears. Smooth sandstone twists upward in flowing curves. Orange turning to red, red fading into shadow, until the sky above becomes a thin ribbon of light. None of it was carved slowly. Flash floods did this, sudden walls of water, forcing through soft rock again and again over thousands of years, shaping the canyon one violent surge at a time. Which means the process never really stopped. Even today, the canyon can fill in minutes. The sky above you can stay blue, while a storm falling miles away sends water racing through the slot. And then there's the moment people come for. A few times each day, sunlight drops through the narrow opening and cuts across the canyon as a solid beam, visible in the dust, hanging in the air. It lasts only a few minutes. This is Navajo land, and people enter with local guides, not just to find the light, but because in one of the most famous hidden places in the American Southwest, knowing the weather matters as much as knowing the way out. Nazaré sits on the central coast of Portugal, a quiet fishing town that turns for part of the year into the most violent stretch of water many surfers will ever see. The secret is hidden offshore. A colossal underwater canyon runs about 143 miles out into the Atlantic, and it works like a funnel, gathering the ocean's energy and aiming it straight at this one small beach. As that energy races up the canyon and slams into shallower water near shore, it stands up into walls of water that can rise past 80 feet, the height of an 8-story building lifting itself out of the sea. This is where the largest wave ever surfed was recorded. Stand on the headland by the old lighthouse, and you feel the impact before you understand it, a low thud in your chest as the whole cliff seems to shudder. Places like this are exactly why people build a bucket list in the first place. The raw edge of the world you have to see at least once. If you want more of these extreme corners of Earth, take a second to subscribe and let's keep going. The Qinghai-Tibet Railway connects mainland China to Lhasa, Tibet. Over 600 miles of track above 13,000 feet. The highest point, 16,640 feet above sea level. The problem: permafrost. Heat from passing trains melts it. Ground softens. Track warps. A standard railway destroys itself within years. Engineers drilled thousands of pipes into the ground, the entire length of the route. The pipes pump cold air into the earth year-round, keeping it frozen artificially indefinitely while trains pass overhead. That solved one problem. Then there were the animals. 675 bridges, each one built with clearance underneath, not for drainage, not for floods, for the Tibetan antelope. The herds migrate twice a year. Engineers designed the clearance so a full herd could pass without breaking stride. Someone put antelope clearance in a structural specification at 16,000 feet. Nobody removed it. The train passes. The antelope walk beneath it. The train continues north. At this altitude, oxygen is roughly 60% of sea level. Passenger cars are pressurized. Workers building this line acclimatized for weeks before being allowed to start. Some never adjusted. They were sent back down. Rising from the plain of Thessaly in central Greece is a forest of stone sandstone pillars, some close to 1,300 feet tall, carved by millions of years of erosion. The name Meteora means suspended in the air, and the reason becomes clear the moment you look up. Balanced on those summits are monasteries, real working ones, with chapels and libraries, and gardens perched so high that clouds sometimes drift past below them. Six are still active today, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the most astonishing sights in Greece. But look at the bare cliffs beneath the main monasteries, and you will find what most visitors miss entirely: tiny wooden balconies, ladders wedged into cracks, caves barely big enough for one person. These were the hermit cells, where monks who found even the monasteries too crowded, too comfortable, too close to the world below retreated for weeks to fast and pray in a silence broken only by wind. And there is the question of how anyone reached the top at all. Until the 1920s, there were no stairs. The only way up was to climb into a rope net and be hauled hundreds of feet into the air by a hand-cranked winch. Food, stone, and people all rose the same way. Visitors used to ask the monks how often they changed the ropes. The answer never changed, only when the Lord lets them break. Meteora is more than vertigo and faith. Under centuries of Ottoman rule, the Greek language and the Orthodox religion were suppressed in the towns below. Up here, unreachable and impossible to police the monasteries became secret schools where Greek children were taught to read, write, and hold on to their own history. The very thing that made Meteora look like madness, its sheer inaccessibility, is what kept a culture alive. The Hunza Valley lies deep in the Gilgit-Baltistan region of Pakistan, a green sliver of life wedged where three of the planet's greatest mountain ranges collide. Guarding it is Rakaposhi, a peak so vast it fills the head of the valley and turns the settlements below into specks. Life here is carved into near-vertical ground. Slender irrigation channels run along the cliff faces, hand-cut over generations, to guide pure glacial meltwater down to each terraced field and home. Old forts of stone and timber, built with techniques tuned to this exact ground, have ridden out hundreds of hard earthquakes without falling. The air is so thin and clean that distant ice walls look close enough to touch every crack and ridge, picked out in sharp detail. And there is one more thing people always mention about Hunza. An unusual number of residents live past 100, a longevity often tied to the simple diet, the clean water, and a life spent moving through this thin mountain air. The Skeleton Coast of Namibia runs roughly 500 kilometers along the South Atlantic. The cold Benguela Current brings fog so dense and consistent that ships navigating by sight couldn't see the shore until they were already on it. No lighthouse, no warning. Just the sound of surf, then, if unlucky, the sound of hull meeting sand. More than 1,000 shipwrecks along this coast. Some ancient, some from the 20th century, some still have cargo, some still have personal effects, letters, tools, watches, preserved in the hyper-arid air that blows off the Namib Desert, which begins exactly where the beach ends. Sailors who made it ashore faced something worse than the water. The Namib is one of the oldest deserts on Earth, backed by 300-meter dunes, almost no surface water for potentially hundreds of kilometers. Men who reached shore faced a walk of that distance with nothing to drink. Most didn't make it. A handful of historical accounts describe what that walk was like. The rocks underfoot sharp enough to cut through leather, the fog so thick that by noon you couldn't see more than a few meters ahead, the complete silence except for wind and the occasional distant seal. No landmarks, no roads, no direction that wasn't desert. Some survivors walked for days before finding anything. Some didn't walk far enough. The ones who did documented a coast of whale bones and seal carcasses and bleached ship ribs so numerous, so old, they had become landmarks rather than disasters. You navigated by the wrecks. One wreck led you to the next. The Skeleton Coast is not a place where things go to die. It's a place where things that died became the map. In the dry Gobi Desert near Dunhuang, a bare cliff of rock hides one of the greatest treasure houses on the Silk Road. The Mogao Caves began in the year 366, when wandering Buddhist monks cut the first shrine into the stone. Over the next 1,000 years, that bare cliff became a honeycomb of nearly 500 caves holding around 484,000 square feet of wall paintings and more than 2,000 painted statues. A UNESCO World Heritage Site built one carving at a time. The shock is the contrast. Outside there is only sun, sand, and stone, the color of bone. Step through a low doorway and the walls explode into color. Buddhas, flying spirits, merchants, musicians, and entire painted worlds glowing in the dark. For centuries, this was a meeting point on the Silk Road, where traders, monks, and pilgrims from a dozen cultures left their mark on the rock. Then, there is the secret room. In 1900, a Taoist caretaker named Wang Yuanlu noticed a crack behind a painted wall and opened a chamber that had been sealed for nearly 1,000 years. Inside lay more than 50,000 manuscripts, scrolls, and paintings, a hidden library of a lost age packed away and forgotten in the desert until the moment that wall came down. Pinned to a sheer cliff in Shanxi province, the Hanging Temple looks less like a building and more like something caught in mid-fall. Its halls and walkways sit roughly 164 to 246 feet above the ground, and from below the whole structure seems to float between the mountain and the empty air in front of it. It has held that pose since around 491, surviving more than 1,500 years of wind, snow, rain, and small earthquakes. What holds it up is hard to believe even when you are looking at it. The temple does not rest on a broad foundation. It hangs on slender wooden beams driven deep into the cliff, so the floor beneath your feet is supported by little more than poles sunk into rock. Inside that impossible space, Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism share the same narrow corridors, three faiths balanced together on the side of a mountain. Walk those passages, and every step feels like both a prayer and a dare, with sacred halls on one side and a long drop on the other. So here is an honest question for you. If someone handed you a free ticket right now, would you actually step onto these narrow wooden walkways with nothing but air beneath them? Comment the word "ready" if you are brave enough and let us know. From the thinnest air on a mountaintop, go the other direction entirely, down, inside. In central Vietnam, under dense jungle, sits the largest cave on Earth, one of the most extraordinary natural wonders on the planet. So large that a Boeing 747 could fly down the main passage without its wings touching the walls. The ceiling climbs to around 650 feet. End to end it runs roughly 5.5 miles. A river carved it out of limestone over millions of years, and that river still runs through the dark. Inside stand some of the tallest stalagmites on Earth, and cave pearls the size of baseballs. But the part that stops people isn't the size, it's the light. In two places, the roof collapsed long ago, opening enormous skylights, and sunlight pours straight down onto the cave floor. Under that light, a full jungle grows. Trees over 100 feet tall, birds, monkeys, clouds that form near the openings and drift through the cavern, weather happening underground. It was only properly explored in 2009. Even now, fewer people have stood inside it than have reached the summit of Everest. Only 1,000 a year are allowed in, and the trips sell out years ahead to travelers from more than 70 countries. The man who found the entrance did it by accident. Sheltering from a storm, he felt cold wind roaring out of the ground, then lost it again in the jungle for almost 20 years before he could lead anyone back. Natron keeps things out with chemistry. This place does it with geometry. In western Madagascar, there's a remote landscape people describe as a stone forest, except forests aren't supposed to cut you. The rock here began as an ancient seabed. Over millions of years, slightly acidic rain didn't smooth the limestone. It sharpened it. What's left is a maze of grey stone spires, rising more than 300 feet high, packed tightly together with deep cracks between them and edges sharp enough to earn the local name roughly where you cannot walk barefoot. From above, it doesn't look impossible. From ground level, it changes completely. Paths disappear. Open space turns into walls. Places that look close can take hours to reach. So people cross it another way, using iron ladders, suspended bridges, and cables stretched above the rock moving over the maze, because moving through it is often harder than it looks. And yet something crosses it barefoot. The Deccan sifaka, a bright white lemur with a black face, leaps spire to spire across the blades, landing on edges sharp enough to open skin, and never cuts itself. The name tells people not to walk here barefoot. This is the one animal that does. And beneath all those blades, the same limestone hides caves and underground passages. Which means this isn't really a stone forest. It's a hidden landscape with a second landscape underneath it. In the coastal waters of northern Norway, Saltstraumen turns a quiet-looking channel into one of the strongest tidal currents on Earth. Every 6 hours, the tide reverses, and about 14 billion cubic feet of seawater force themselves through a narrow gap between the mountains. All that water squeezed through such a tight throat tears itself into whirlpools up to 33 feet across, funnels deep and strong enough to swallow a bus and drag it spinning into the dark. The current can run near 25 miles an hour until the surface becomes a kind of sideways waterfall, moving with more raw force than famous Niagara. Down on the rock walls below, bright red coral clings on, and the fish that live here have grown unusually powerful, their bodies built just to hold position against a sea that wants to sweep them away. Then, for a few still minutes between tides, the whole channel goes glassy and calm before the fury winds itself up all over again. Lake Titicaca sits at 3,812 meters in the Andes, between Peru and Bolivia. At this altitude, the lake makes its own weather: morning mist, afternoon squalls, nights cold enough to qualify as winter at sea level. The light is different. The thin air filters less ultraviolet, and the blue of the lake at midday is more intense than almost any other body of water on Earth. The Uros people have been living on the lake itself for centuries. Not beside it, on it. The floating islands are built from totora reeds cut from the shallow lake margins, layered horizontally in alternating directions like brickwork anchored to the lake bed by rope and stakes, 1 to 2 meters thick. The bottom layer rots continuously from water contact. New layers go on top every few weeks. When you step onto one, the surface gives slightly underfoot a sponginess, unlike any floor anywhere else, like the island is breathing. The islands aren't fixed. Untie the anchor ropes and pole them to a new position. Historically, the Uros moved toward the center of the lake when threats appeared on shore. The island was the wall. The open water was the moat. Boats are totora. Houses are totora. The inner core of the reed is edible, starchy, slightly sweet. Today, some islands have solar panels mounted on frames above the reed rooftops, motorboats alongside reed vessels. The community has adapted in ways the original builders couldn't have imagined, and in ways that would probably make sense to them anyway, because the logic was always the same: use what works, add what's better, keep rebuilding. But every morning, someone still carries an armful of fresh reeds to the surface and adds them to the island. Because the island keeps needing to be made. In Sichuan province, the ruins of Sanqingdui cover about 2.3 square miles, and everything pulled out of the ground here looks like it came from another world. This was the heart of the ancient Shu, a civilization so completely forgotten that history almost lost it entirely. Then the ground gave up its faces. Buried in sacrificial pits were bronze masks with eyes that bulged straight out of the metal, ears stretched wide, and features that match no other culture in ancient China. Alongside them came towering bronze figures, sacred bronze trees, golden scepters, and piles of ivory and jade. The first 2 pits, found in 1986, held more than 6,000 objects. Newer pits opened since 2020 have pushed the total across 6 pits toward nearly 13,000, and the digging is not finished. The eeriest part is the silence. The Shu left no writing anyone can read, so these staring bronze faces are the only voices they have. We can hold their masks, scan them, and date them, and still have no idea what they believed, why they buried it all, or what those enormous eyes were meant to see. In Shaanxi province, the ancient city of Pingyao pulled off something almost no other Chinese city managed. it survived whole. While most old capitals were torn down and rebuilt, Pingyao kept its Ming and Qing layout intact. The same walls, streets, courtyard homes, shops, and temples now protected as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The wall circuit runs about 4 miles around and stands 40 feet high, broken by 6 gates, 72 watchtowers, and more than 3,000 battlements wrapping the whole town like a giant stone box. Inside that box was once the richest financial center in the country. This walled city was the birthplace of China's first draft banks, where a merchant could hand over silver in one province and collect it 1,000 miles away on nothing but a slip of paper. No carts of coins, no armed guards on the road, just trust written down. Seen from above, the grey tile roofs and narrow alleys still fit neatly inside the old walls, and people still live in them, which is the strangest part of all. A 600-year-old city that never stopped being a home. Out in the middle of Turkmenistan's Karakum Desert, the Darvaza gas crater opens in the sand like a wound that refuses to close. It began in 1971 when a Soviet drilling rig punched into a hidden gas pocket and the ground gave way. Engineers set the escaping methane alight, expecting it to burn off in days. Instead, it burned for half a century. In the footage, the world came to know the pit glows, about 226 feet across and 98 feet deep. Its floor, a churning bed of fire, fed by methane rising from below. There is no barrier at the rim, nothing between your boots and the drop into that furnace. Then there is what scientists pulled out of it. When an explorer descended to the crater floor and brought back samples, researchers found tough microbes, bacteria that seem to survive by feeding on the very gas that fuels the flames. Life had moved into the mouth of the fire and made itself at home. In recent years, the flames have been fading as the gas is drawn off, so the inferno you see in most footage is already becoming a memory.
Very original spark 55 years ago.
This is the Chantang River tidal bore called the Yinlang, the Silver Dragon. Every year, the right combination of tide and moon sends the sea surging back upriver from Hangzhou Bay. The bay narrows like a funnel, forcing an enormous mass of water into a tighter and tighter channel. The wave reaches 8 to 9 meters. It moves at up to 40 kilometers per hour. People stand at the viewing banks every year knowing this, and every year, some of them misjudge the distance. The bore has been recorded in Chinese literature for over 2,000 years. Han scholars documented it. Tang Dynasty commanders used it as a weapon timing troop movements to strand enemies on the banks as the wave came in. In the 11th century, Su Dongpo watched it from the riverbank and wrote the most famous description in Chinese literature. He called it 10,000 cavalry advancing on a drumbeat. He was not exaggerating. The surge flips, fishing boats tears trees from riverbanks, pushes debris kilometers inland. When the bore is large, it creates secondary waves that bounce off the riverbanks and collide mid-river. The chaos of water in those minutes is extraordinary. Not just one wave, but a churn of intersecting forces, each one capable of ending you. After it passes the roar, the white chaos, the foam, the river goes quiet. The Silver Dragon retreats. It will come back next year, same month, same week, nearly the same hour. And the people on the bank will stand too close again. They always do. Mawson Ram, in the Meghalaya state of northeastern India, receives approximately 11,871 millimeters of rainfall per year. London gets around 600. The wettest cities in the United States get maybe 1,600. Mawson Ram gets nearly 12,000. During peak monsoon, the rain doesn't fall so much as occupy space. It fills the air, runs in sheets down hillsides with nowhere left to drain. The sound on a tin roof during peak monsoon is described by residents as physically painful. Wood rots within days. Metal corrodes overnight. The Khasi people of Meghalaya built something remarkable out of all that water. They trained trees. Over decades, sometimes generations, they guided the aerial roots of Indian rubber fig trees across river gorges, weaving them together until the roots themselves became bridges. Not bridges built from wood that rots, living bridges growing stronger every year. The technique guide young roots through hollowed bamboo tubes to direct their growth across the gap, then interweave as they thicken. The bamboo scaffold eventually rots away entirely. What remains is the root structure itself, self-supporting, improving with every monsoon. The oldest root bridges are estimated at over 500 years old. Some hold 50 people at once. Some are double-decked the upper level, built by a generation that never saw the lower one built. In Mawson Ram, the rain is the architecture. Elsewhere, people build walls to keep water out. Here, the water is what holds the building together and strengthens it every year it falls, which is every year it has ever been. But if you think this chapter has shown you the most dangerous place in Asia, we haven't even started on the mountains yet. Tianzi Mountain rises out of the Zhangjiajie region of China as a forest of enormous stone pillars, part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site that looks lifted straight out of a fantasy film. The karst peaks here climb to around 5,015 feet, ringed by cliffs that fall away almost vertically on every side. To move along these heights, an iron walkway has been bolted onto the raw rock, its steel anchors driven deep enough to hold a small crowd at once over the drop. It is not a path for anyone who fears heights. Look down from the top, and the view barely makes sense. Slender rock towers rising out of drifting cloud, the valley floor lost somewhere far below. It is the strange collision of hard modern engineering and untouched stone that makes standing here feel so unreal. Now somewhere where nothing changes at all. Defy in the Namib Desert. A flat white clay pan cracked into a tile floor, ringed by some of the tallest sand dunes on the planet, deep rust orange rising against a hard blue sky. The color contrast alone stops you. Standing on the white pan are dead trees, black, bare, skeletal. They've been dead for around 900 years, but it's far too dry here for them to rot, so they just stand exactly where they died, slowly scorched dark by the sun. There's no sound, no wind in the branches because the branches are stone hard. No animals moving. Just black trees on white ground under orange dunes, holding completely still. Some places overwhelm you with motion and scale. This isolated landscape does the opposite. It empties out and lets the silence do the work. The Emerald Lake in China's Qaidam Basin stops people mid-step. Deep turquoise water, saturated, vivid, crystal clear to the bottom, white salt flats to every horizon. Unsafe for human contact. Don't swim, don't touch it. Signs in 3 languages. Most people read them. Then take another photo. The lake gets its color from the minerals dissolved in it. The same minerals that make it dangerous are what make it that color. Nearby, Karhan Salt Lake has a salt crust 50 to 60 feet thick. Engineers built a road across it known as the Salt Bridge. No concrete. The salt is the foundation. 20 miles of active road sitting on mineral deposits. It has held for decades. The most visually surreal landscape in this region is also an active industrial site. Salt trucks, workers in hard hats, a processing facility next to a lake that doesn't look real. The workers here stop noticing the color after a while. You can tell which ones are new by whether they glance at the water during break. The ones who've been here longer don't. The trucks have been there longer than the photographers. Oymyakon, tucked deep in the Sakha Republic of Siberia, is the coldest permanently inhabited place anywhere on Earth. The ground beneath it stays frozen solid far deeper than any building could ever reach, locked in a cold that never fully lets go. Out here, warmth turns strange. The heat of your own breath freezes the instant it leaves your mouth, drifting down as tiny ice crystals with a faint crackle people call the whisper of the stars. Life bends to the temperature. Hunters get through the winter on thin sliced raw fish and reindeer blood, dense fuel for a body fighting the cold. Vehicle engines are often left running around the clock because shut them off, and the fuel inside can freeze into useless sludge. The trees wear thick coats of hoar frost until the whole forest looks like pale coral standing at the bottom of a frozen sea. Search for almost any location on Earth. Satellite images reviews drone footage. Search for Mustang before 2008, almost nothing. Not poor internet. Outsiders weren't allowed in. Special permit. Limited numbers. Fees on top of fees. For decades before that, closed entirely. Not war, not disaster, off limits. Mustang is a high plateau in northern Nepal, surrounded by mountains that block weather from 3 directions. Wind-scoured cliffs in deep rust red and brown. Carved into the vertical rock faces cave cities, hundreds of rooms cut by hand into cliffs that rise straight from the valley floor, accessible only by ladder, over 1,000 years old, empty. Nobody knows who built them. Nobody knows why they were left. The ladders that remain are the only evidence that someone at some point decided to stop coming back. Archaeologists have found storage jars still sealed, tools arranged as if someone stepped out and never returned. No signs of violence, no signs of disease, just gone. The working theory is migration, but nobody knows where, and nobody knows why they left the jars. 14th century wall paintings still on the walls, pigment still vivid. In one chamber, there's a painting of a person looking directly outward not at anything in the scene just out. Straight ahead. It's been there for 6 centuries. Researchers have no explanation for why it was painted that way. A kingdom for 500 years, quietly stopped being a kingdom in 2008. The last king gave an interview about it. He seemed mostly fine. A tourist photographs a wall painting. A monk in the same room adjusts his robes. He has a schedule. He doesn't stop to look. The tourist will go home and tell people about the cave cities and the wall paintings and the sealed jars. The monk will ring the bells at the same time he rings them every day. Neither of them is wrong about what this place is. Ho Shil, Tibetan Plateau, China, 14,700 feet above sea level. At this altitude, every breath delivers about 40% less oxygen than what you'd get at sea level. Your brain runs slower, your thinking gets heavier. Move too fast and you'll drop. The Ho Shil is a nature reserve the size of South Korea, and it is in almost the complete sense of the word empty. No permanent human settlements. Temperatures drop to -40 in winter. The wind doesn't gust here, it presses. A constant unbroken force that makes pitched tents flip and vehicles drift sideways on flat ground. The silence here is not peaceful. It's enormous. The kind of silence that makes you aware of your own heartbeat. The kind that reminds you how much noise the world usually makes and how much energy we spend generating it. This is where roughly 70,000 Tibetan antelope, the chiru, migrate each year to give birth. They cross hundreds of miles of frozen plateau, pregnant in wind that kills. The chiru nearly went extinct in the 1990s, poached for their extraordinarily fine wool so thin that a full shawl could be pulled through a wedding ring. A single shawl required the skins of 3 to 5 animals. By 2000, their numbers had dropped from over 1 million to under 70,000. The Earth doesn't create easy habitats, it creates possible ones. And life, without asking for permission, finds its way into every single possible one that exists. We've watched creatures survive fire cold and a river full of crocodiles. We've watched life return to a valley buried in ash, an antelope migrate across a plateau where the air itself barely sustains them. Every scene in this chapter has been the Earth operating on its own terms without us before us, indifferent to us. But now we need to talk about what happens when one particular species enters the picture, not to survive the planet, not to endure it, but to read it. La Rinconada sits high in the Peruvian Andes, more than 16,000 feet above sea level, the highest permanent human settlement on Earth. The air here holds about half the oxygen you would find at sea level. Altitude sickness is not a risk, it is a daily condition, part of simply waking up. People do not climb this high for the view. They come for gold. Locked in the frozen mountain is one of the richest gold deposits in South America, and the system the miners use to reach it is one of the most brutal still practiced anywhere. It is called cachorio. A miner works inside the tunnels for 30 days straight, without a single cent of pay. On the 31st day, he is allowed to carry out as much raw ore as he can lift onto his own shoulders and keep whatever it holds. It might be enough gold to change his life. It might be worthless rock. He will not know until he breaks it open. Every month is a gamble, and the mountain always holds the odds. The women of La Rinconada are barred from the shafts, entirely kept out by an old belief that a woman underground will make the gold vanish. So they work the frozen slopes outside the palaqueras, sifting the discarded rock by hand in the cold for any fleck the men left behind. And inside that mountain, the Catholic faith of the surface gives way to something older. The miners pray to El Tío, the lord of the underworld. They leave him coca leaf cigarettes and pure alcohol at small shrines in the dark, asking him to reveal the gold and to hold the mountain up. Up here, God lives above the clouds, but El Tío lives in the dark with the men who need him most. We end at the edge of the world, or what feels like it. Where Venezuela, Brazil, and Guyana meet, a single mountain stands above the clouds with a completely flat top sheer cliffs on every side, rising over 8,000 feet, with a summit cut so level it looks sliced. Most of the year, the clouds swallow it whole, and it just floats there grey and impossible to reach. It's one of the oldest pieces of land on the planet, part of a foundation more than 2 billion years old. And because the top has been sealed off by those cliffs for so long, life up there went its own way. Plants that eat insects, frogs found nowhere else, a small, isolated world stranded in the sky. Waterfalls pour off the rim and dissolve into mist before they ever reach the bottom. Back to the surface and to water that can't decide what color to be. On a volcano on the island of Flores sit 3 lakes side by side. One might be deep red, the next turquoise, the third near black. Then, over weeks or months with no warning, one of them changes to green, to brown, to white, while a lake a few hundred feet away stays exactly as it was. The cause is chemistry. Volcanic gases bubble up from below and react with minerals dissolved in each lake: iron, sulfur, and because each crater holds a slightly different mix, each one shifts on its own schedule. There's no fixed cycle anyone can predict. The local Leo people have lived with this far longer than the science existed to describe it. To them, this sacred landscape is where the souls of the dead go sorted into 3 lakes: the elders, the young, and those who did wrong in life. Between 2 of the craters, a single thin rock ridge separates one resting place from the next. The Qiantang River in the Zhejiang province of China is home to one of the world's most powerful tidal bores, a surge that seems to break the ordinary rules of how a river should behave. The shape of the river mouth is the trigger. It narrows like a great trumpet, squeezing the incoming sea until the tide has nowhere to go but up. Twice, the water stacks into a moving wall and charges inland waves, climbing as high as 30 feet, the height of a 3-story building, rolling straight at the shore. That wall can move around 25 miles an hour, driving a crushing weight of water ahead of it. The force runs so deep that the surge shoves the river backward for more than 62 miles into the land. Crowds gather on the banks every year to watch it come drawn to the raw power of a river briefly turned against itself. In the village of Oymyakon, Siberia, the recorded temperature on February 6, 1933 was -67.7 degrees Celsius, coldest temperature ever recorded at a permanently inhabited settlement on Earth. At -67, machinery stops functioning. Car engines run all night, not for warmth, but because if they stop, they won't start again until spring. Eyelashes freeze between blinks. Breath doesn't mist, it crackles moisture, crystallizing before it disperses. Locals call this sound the whisper of stars because it happens most intensely on clear, still nights. Ink in pens freezes. Smartphone screens stop responding. Glasses fuse to skin. The market in Oymyakon sells frozen fish and frozen meat, not refrigerated, just left outside in stalls that are colder than any freezer. You pick up the fish and it's solid as stone. You buy it like you'd buy a brick. At home, you thaw it slowly near the fire. The thaw takes the better part of a day. Preserving food in winter here isn't a technology, it's geography. The cold does the work. It has always done the work. About 500 people live here permanently. The dead are buried with blowtorches because ordinary shovels can't penetrate the permafrost. Infrastructure sits on stilts because the heat from buildings would thaw the ground beneath and sink the structure. In Oymyakon, warmth is the structural threat. Schools close when the temperature drops below -52. That's the threshold. -52 is where acceptable ends. The name Oymyakon translates from the Yakut language as something close to non-freezing water, a hot spring nearby. The only reason anyone stopped here in the first place centuries ago. They stopped. They stayed. And they built a village where -52 is a normal school day benchmark. Inside the chum, it's warm. Orange light, smell of hide and smoke, sound of wind pressing hard against the canvas walls. Outside, -40, open tundra, hundreds of kilometers in every direction. The Nenets people of the Yamal Peninsula have been migrating across this terrain for at least 1,000 years. Seasonal routes covering up to 1,200 kilometers, crossing frozen rivers and open tundra, herding reindeer through conditions that would hospitalize most people within days. Their portable homes, the chum assemble and dismantle in under an hour. The poles, the hides, the fire pit packed onto sleds, moved to the next campsite rebuilt. In a year, a family might do this 40 or 50 times. The chum is not a home in the permanent sense. It's a home in the useful sense, which turns out to be the only sense that matters. In the Nenets language, there are specific words for dozens of different types of snow, not poetic vocabulary, but survival vocabulary. A herder who can't distinguish between load-bearing ice and hollow-crusted snow will lose reindeer to the ground. And losing reindeer isn't a metaphor for hardship. It is the actual thing. Their diet in the field includes raw reindeer meat and blood, not as tradition as biochemistry. Fresh blood provides vitamin C that prevents scurvy. It provides iron. It provides warmth in a way cooked food, requiring fire, and fuel can't always deliver on a moving migration. They drink blood because it works. The Yamal Peninsula is also cracking open. As permafrost thaws faster than in any prior measured period, craters have been appearing in the ground, dozens of meters wide, forming suddenly when underground pockets of frozen methane destabilize and explode outward. The Nenets have documented craters appearing in migration corridors they've used for generations. The ground they've relied on for 1,000 years is changing in ways 1,000 years didn't prepare them for. In winter, the population drops to around 40 people. Temperatures reach -80. No aircraft can land fuel freezers before it can be pumped. No resupply. No evacuation. If something goes wrong medically, the station doctor is the only option. In 1999, one winter-over physician diagnosed herself with early-stage breast cancer. She performed her own biopsy using guidance from doctors communicating by email. She managed her own treatment until the station reopened in the spring. She stayed. Every January 1st, a new South Pole marker is placed at the mathematically correct pole position. The old markers remain behind, slowly drifting away on moving ice. The station keeps sliding across Antarctica a few meters every year. The people inside keep working anyway. Salar de Uyuni sits high in the southwest of Bolivia, the largest salt flat on Earth and one of the flattest places anywhere on the planet. It sprawls across nearly 4,000 square miles of blinding white, so level that satellites in orbit use its surface to calibrate their instruments. When a thin film of rain settles over it, the whole flat turns to mirror. Sky and ground stop being two separate things. Clouds drift under your feet, and the horizon simply dissolves. It is one of those bucket list sights people cross the world just to stand inside. Beneath that beauty lies something a very different industry chases. Some of the largest lithium reserves on the planet sit locked in the brine under the crust, the same metal that powers the battery in your phone, and the light itself can turn on you. The reflected glare is fierce enough to burn unprotected skin in under 15 minutes. Walk far enough out, and every reference point vanishes. The salt dries into a vast honeycomb of pale hexagons, tile after tile, running past the edge of sight until there is no sound but a faint crunch underfoot and a sky that curves all the way around you. Still on the water, but out in the open Atlantic now, a near-perfect ring of land, sitting just above the waves. Off the coast of the Azores, it looks like a green circle, wrapped around a calm pool of seawater. It's the top of an old volcano, a few thousand years dead, most of it still hidden underwater. What you can see is just the rim breaking the surface. The bulk of it drops away below. The lagoon in the middle fills the old crater, its floor paved with dark lava rock instead of sand. A narrow channel lets the ocean in and out natural looking, though people are thought to have widened it long ago to shelter their boats. By day, seabirds tuck themselves into dark holes in the rock. After dark, they come out and call across the water all at once. These days, the calm crater is a swimming spot, and the cliff beside it is a stage for divers who throw themselves off a rock tower into the sea. A volcano turned into a pool. Climb back out and climb much higher into the cold. High in the Andes, Above 10,000 feet, the snow doesn't lie flat. It stands up. Thousands of thin blades of ice, some as tall as a person, all leaning the same direction toward the sun. Walking through a field of them is less like crossing snow and more like wading through a crowd of frozen spears. They form because of how dry and bright it is up here in this remote mountain landscape. The sun doesn't melt the snow into water. It turns it straight into vapor. The dips melt back faster than the peaks. The peaks sharpen and they tilt toward the light that's carving them. Charles Darwin pushed through a field of these in 1835 and wrote about how miserable it was. And much later, NASA spotted similar blade-like structures on Pluto, the same basic physics running on a world billions of miles away. The same trick of light and ice, two completely different planets. Out across the Gobi Desert in Gansu, China, the Haitian Range and its Yardang rock formations spread over a silent, sun-scorched badland. Wind has carved the stone into pillars up to 65 feet tall, whole rows of them standing like the ruins of a city no one ever lived in. Dark glassy crust coats the ground, so the plain looks like the black scales of some huge creature half buried in the sand. Here is the part that rattles visitors most. The rock carries so much iron that it pulls compass needles off true, and navigation gear can quit working right in the middle of the maze. Lose your bearings out here among row after identical row of ridges, and the desert stops feeling empty and starts feeling like it is keeping a secret. At the very lip of Victoria Falls on the border between Zambia and Zimbabwe lies Devil's Pool, a natural rock basin balanced right at the edge of the drop. Victoria Falls is a UNESCO World Heritage Site where the Zambezi River throws itself 354 feet down into the gorge. At full flow, as much as 300 million gallons of water pour over this edge every minute a wall of sound and spray you feel in your chest. And yet for a few months each year, when the water falls low, a ridge of rock surfaces just above the brink. That ridge holds back the current enough for people to slide into the pool and edge toward the lip, the whole river thundering over the drop beside them. It is a guided experience only, and for good reason. Could you lower yourself into that water and look straight down the throat of the falls? Oymyakon, in the Sakha Republic of northeastern Russia, is the coldest permanently inhabited place on Earth. Its name means roughly the water that never freezes after a thermal spring nearby that stays liquid through the depths of winter while everything around it turns hard as iron. In the cold season readings, he had dropped toward 90 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, with unofficial claims pushing close to 96 below. At that point, the moisture in your breath freezes before it leaves your mouth. Metal turns brittle, rubber shatters, and if you switch off your car engine, you may never start it again. Here is what makes it stranger. In July, this same village can climb past 86 degrees Fahrenheit. The swing across a single year can top 180 degrees, a range no other inhabited place on Earth has to survive. The people of Oymyakon do not endure one extreme. They endure two opposite extremes back to back every single year. Their food grew straight out of that cold. The frozen ground makes farming nearly impossible, so the Yakut people built their cuisine around what the cold preserves rather than what the soil can grow. Their most loved dish is stroganina, long thin ribbons of raw frozen river fish shaved from a solid block and dipped in salt and pepper. It melts on the tongue like ice cream. The cold never defeated them. They turned it into a meal. Tanah Toraja in the highlands of Sulawesi, Indonesia, is one of the most remote and unsettling places anyone still calls home. The land is a maze of steep mountains and rice terraces, and the cliffs themselves are lined with coffins. Wooden coffins wedged into the rock face high above the valley, with carved figures of the dead standing guard beside them, gazing down on the living below. What makes Tanataraja stranger still is what happens before the cliff. When someone dies here, the body is often not buried for months, sometimes for years. It stays in the family home, cared for and spoken to, treated as a relative who is unwell rather than gone until the family can hold the great funeral the dead are owed. Only then is the coffin carried up and set into the rock. In Toraja, the line between the living and the dead is not a wall. It is a long, slow goodbye. This is one of the oldest surviving death cultures on Earth, kept alive across roughly 800 square miles of rugged highland where ancient villages still stand. It is sacred, it is eerie, and it is entirely real. If places like this are the reason you are still here, drop a comment and tell us the one that unsettled you the most. We read every single one. Wadi Rum stretches across southern Jordan, more than 278 square miles of desert that looks less like a landscape than a frozen Red Sea. Towering sandstone walls rise straight out of the sand, shifting through black ochre and burning gold as the sun moves across them. Rain almost never comes. Barely an inch and a half falls in a year. So every living thing here fights a slow, constant battle with thirst. The desert holds old stories too. Caravans once vanished into this emptiness for good, straying off the few faint trails and simply never arriving. The cliffs are fragile, the heat is merciless, and a rescue out here can be close to impossible. Yet this is a UNESCO World Heritage Site for a reason. People have lived and moved through this fierce ground for some 12,000 years, and their traces are still written on the rock. Lake Tilicho, 16,000 feet above sea level, one of the highest lakes in the world. Deep blue water, white glaciers above, no trees, almost no sound. Getting there takes days. Landslide territory, paths that drop vertically on one side. At this altitude, lungs notice before eyes do. Halfway up, people stop talking. Conversation becomes physical work. Some trekkers bring snacks they've been saving the whole way up. A chocolate, an energy bar. They sit at the edge, unwrap it, slowly eat it, looking at the water. 4 days of walking for this. When you arrive, it is completely still. A trekker sits at the edge, doesn't take out his phone, just sits. After 20 minutes, he stands, starts back down. He doesn't say anything for the rest of that day. The Badain Jaran Desert in Inner Mongolia is one of the driest places in China. Dunes here reach 1,600 feet, among the tallest in the world. The sand is orange-red, almost no moisture in the air. And in the valleys between the dunes, more than 140 lakes. Some are saltwater, some are freshwater. They sit side by side, separated by nothing but sand. Adjacent, completely different chemistry. Nobody has fully explained why. The water shouldn't be there. The nearest significant rainfall is hundreds of miles away. The leading theory involves ancient aquifers seeping up from deep underground. But the math doesn't fully add up. The desert keeps its source to itself. A monk opens the door of a small temple at sunrise. Behind him, dunes. In front of him, a lake perfectly still reflecting the sky. He sweeps the threshold. He doesn't look at the water the way a visitor would. He just sweeps. There are several small temples scattered through the desert, built on the shores of the larger lakes. People reach them on foot across the dunes. There are no roads into the interior. At night, the dunes make sounds, a low rumble caused by sand grains shifting against each other in the wind. Locals call it the singing sand. It carries across the water. In the stillness between gusts, you hear the desert breathing. The lakes have no outflow. The water arrives and stays. The monk sweeps the threshold. The dunes keep their secret. High in the Swiss Alps peak, Walk by Tissot hangs between two mountain summits at around 9,842 feet, billed as the first suspension bridge in the world to connect two peaks. Its deck is only about 32 inches wide, a slim ribbon of steel strung over a serious drop. Cross it, and the nerves come fast, especially once you feel how much sky is under you. The engineering, though, is built to reassure. The bridge was tested to stay steady even in wind gusts. Near 124 miles an hour, its cables anchored about 16 feet down into solid limestone. From that high walkway, the payoff opens up all at once, a sweep of 24 alpine peaks rising sharp against the sky. For many who make the trip, it lands squarely on the bucket list, a short walk with a very long view. In the heart of a dry valley in Yemen, the ancient city of Shibam rises from the desert floor like a single sculpture shaped entirely from mud and straw. Around 500 tower houses stand packed together here, many climbing to roughly 100 feet, the height of a modern 10-story building. People have called it the Manhattan of the desert, and standing among these mud towers, the nickname makes instant sense. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and one of the oldest examples of high-rise living anywhere on Earth. The buildings survive through constant care. Their rooftops are coated in white lime that throws back the harsh sun and keeps the mud beneath from cracking and crumbling. Every year, the residents climb up and replaster the outer skin of the towers, sealing them before the rare but violent rains can eat them away. 5 centuries on, this mud city is still standing still, lived in, still fighting the desert one coat at a time. The Taklamakan Desert. Isolated deep within Xinjiang, China, this settlement lies days away from any modern city. No river, no reason for a village. But Darya Boyi village is there. Sand on every side, wind shifting dunes constantly, no permanent water source. Summer temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius. Simple homes made of mud and woven poplar branches stand defiant against the harsh landscape. Inside one of them, a husband, his wife, and their son share a quiet moment, finding a simple, enduring happiness in a place most would call uninhabitable. Not far away, an impossible sight breaks the endless dunes, a botanical garden blooming in the heart of the desert. Inside, a woman who tends to this green oasis chats happily with visitors, proudly introducing the unique botanical plants she has nurtured with her own hands. The village has shrunk over the past 2 decades. Younger people leave. The ones who stay are mostly older, and most of them learnt this the way their parents did, by watching, not by being taught. Nobody's written it down. They don't call it survival, they call it home. Search for almost any location on Earth satellite images reviews drone footage. Search for Mustang before 2008, almost nothing. Not poor internet. Outsiders weren't allowed in. Special permit. Limited numbers. Fees on top of fees. For decades before that, closed entirely. Not war, not disaster, off limits. Mustang is a high plateau in northern Nepal, surrounded by mountains that block weather from 3 directions. Wind-scoured cliffs in deep rust red and brown. Carved into the vertical rock faces cave cities, hundreds of rooms cut by hand into cliffs that rise straight from the valley floor, accessible only by ladder, over 1,000 years old, empty. Nobody knows who built them. Nobody knows why they were left. The ladders that remain are the only evidence that someone at some point decided to stop coming back. Archaeologists have found storage jars still sealed, tools arranged as if someone stepped out and never returned. No signs of violence, no signs of disease, just gone. The working theory is migration, but nobody knows where, and nobody knows why they left the jars. 14th century wall paintings still on the walls, pigments still vivid. In one chamber, there's a painting of a person looking directly outward, not at anything in the scene just out, straight ahead. It's been there for 6 centuries. Researchers have no explanation for why it was painted that way. A kingdom for 500 years, quietly stopped being a kingdom in 2008. The last king gave an interview about it. He seemed mostly fine. A tourist photographs a wall painting. A monk in the same room adjusts his robes. He has a schedule. He doesn't stop to look. The tourist will go home and tell people about the cave cities and the wall paintings and the sealed jars. The monk will ring the bells at the same time he rings them every day. Neither of them is wrong about what this place is. The Uro's floating islands sit on Lake Titicaca in Peru, the highest navigable lake in the world, nearly 12,000 feet up in the Andes. These are not islands of Earth. Each one is built entirely from totora reeds, layered and stacked until it floats on the open water, and the Uro's people have lived this way for generations. Step onto one, and the ground gives and sways beneath your feet because there is nothing under it but reed and water. The foundation is several feet of bundled reed, and the lake is always trying to take it back. From below, the reeds slowly rot away, so fresh layers go on top over and over for as long as the island survives. Even then, a floating island lasts only 20 to 30 years before it has to be rebuilt from nothing. And life here is not grim. It is busy and in its own way content. The men cut and bind the reeds and keep the islands afloat. The women sit out in the sun in bright layered skirts, weaving and stitching crafts to sell. Visitors come by boat from the mainland now, and that has quietly become the island's lifeline, alongside the fishing and the reed canoes shaped like long curved animals. The totora itself is more than a floor. Its pale inner root is eaten too, with a taste close to mild onion. On Lake Titicaca, the same plant is the ground they stand on, the roof over their heads, and the food in their hands. Koh Phangan sits off the coast of Phang Nga province in southern Thailand, and almost the entire village is built on tall wooden stilts rising straight out of the sea, packed against a towering limestone cliff. There is barely any solid land at all. Walk the narrow plank walkways between the houses, and the whole community of fishing life is happening on the water around you. The village began more than 200 years ago when Muslim fishing families arrived from Indonesia. The law of the time would not let them own land in Thailand, so they did something clever. If they could not build on the land, they would build on the sea. Today, around 1,000 people live here, making their living from fishing trade, and the tourists who come to see a floating village that should not work and does. And then there is the football pitch. In the 1980s, after watching the World Cup on television, the boys of Koh Phangan wanted a pitch of their own on an island with no flat ground to spare. Everyone told them it was impossible, so they lashed together wooden planks and built a floating field that rocks and shifts on the tide. The team that grew up playing on it went on to become one of the strongest youth sides in southern Thailand. The kids who were told there was nowhere to play ended up beating the kids who had everything. On the side of Mount Hua in China, the Huashan plank walk challenges your nerve with a trail that is barely a trail at all. A line of narrow wooden boards bolted to a sheer cliff. In places, the planks are less than 12 inches wide, forcing you to shuffle sideways, one careful step after another. You are more than 6,000 feet up here, cut off from the world below with a clean drop, falling away beneath your heels. A single iron chain runs along the rock, and that chain is the only thing to hold. There are no railings and no second chances. Every step is entirely on you. It is regularly named among the world's most dangerous hikes, and one look down tells you exactly why people say it. The Yardang region in northwestern China is called Ghost City. Yardang's rock columns, carved by wind erosion over millions of years, 40-50 feet tall, standing in rows across the desert floor like ruins of a city that never existed. Rock coated in minerals, dark, almost black surface, lacquered and burned. Hundreds of them. Miles of them. Wind through the corridors makes sounds, low groans, high whistles, something between the two, a tone that doesn't map cleanly to anything else. People camping here overnight describe waking to what sounds like distant voices. Not clearly, just enough to make you check if someone's outside. Researchers who have spent extended time here tend to describe the same thing. The second night is harder than the first. The first night, you're still curious. The second night, the sounds start to feel like they're directed at you. Most people don't stay for a third. Almost no plants, almost no animals. The few who venture here, off-road drivers lone, photographers, surveyors watch the creeping darkness with an unspoken understanding. They start their engines. They leave before the last light fades. Nobody explains it as a rule. They just do it. First, the bridge. The Cristallo Bridge single-file cable-supported, suspended above a drop of several hundred feet to open rock. It moves when you walk on it. Your hands find the cable railing before your brain decides to put them there. On the other side, a small orange metal hut, roughly the size of a large van, bolted into the cliff face. 12 people. One night. No heat beyond body heat. No running water. A few bunks. A window looking out over the Alps. Built for mountaineers, caught in storms when descending becomes more dangerous than staying. The hut sways in wind. By design, a rigid structure would be torn off the cliff. People who've been caught here in a serious storm describe the same thing. The hut moves. Not dangerously, it's built to move. But you feel it, and you feel it in your chest more than your feet, and you lie there listening to it, and you understand very clearly that the mountain is not interested in your comfort. People book it months in advance now. 12 spots. You bring your own food, your own sleeping bag. Most people bring more food than they need. Nobody sleeps well. In the morning, they drink instant coffee from a small stove and look at the Alps as the light changes. That's the whole thing. Not every mystery here is enormous. Some are small enough to fit in your hands. In Death Valley, one of the hottest places on Earth, there's a dry lake bed cracked into pale plates that stretch flat to the horizon. And across that empty surface, rocks leave tracks. Some weigh as much as a person. Behind them, long grooves carved into the clay. Some run perfectly straight, others curve. A few change direction halfway across the lake bed. The strange part is that nobody saw them move for decades. People arrived in the morning and found new tracks where there had been none before. The answer turned out to be quieter than the mystery. A few times each year, the playa floods. Overnight, the water freezes into thin sheets around the stones. When the morning sun breaks the ice apart, even a light breeze can push those floating panels across the surface, and the rocks move with them, slowly carving lines into the soft mud below. So the stones really do move, just almost never when anyone is there to see it. You only find the trail and realize something heavy crossed the lake while nobody was watching. One of the most famous mysterious landforms in the American desert. From a valley that feels alive to one that looks like the planet gave up on it. The Bisti Badlands in New Mexico, a wide expanse of thin rock towers, crumbling stone mushrooms, and bands of gray, black, and brown earth, with no clear trail and no signs. It reads as dead, lifeless. Which is the twist. Around 70 million years ago, this exact ground was a warm, wet coastal swamp, thick with life. Then the sea pulled back, and time went to work wind and rain, stripping away the soft layers, leaving these strange shapes behind. The cracked ground still gives up petrified wood and the fossil traces of dinosaurs that once moved through here when it was green. No marked path, no fixed route. You navigate by landmarks and instinct across this remote ancient landscape on the bones of a world that died long before anything human could remember it. Spiti Valley in the Indian Himalayas sits at an average elevation of around 3,800 meters. Visitors spend their first 2 days with headaches and impaired judgment. The valley seals under snow for roughly 6 months. In winter, the only road in becomes unusable, no other way in or out. Key Monastery has been on its ridge since at least the 11th century. It looks like it grew from the rock, same color, same texture, stacked white and brown layers following the shape of the hill. Monks have lived there continuously through winters that most people would not survive without modern equipment. In deep winter, it's accessible only on foot through snow at altitude. The practice continues. But the detail that stays with you isn't Key Monastery. It's the post office at Sikkim. Sikkim sits at around 4,400 meters. It has a functioning post office, reportedly the highest in the world. Walk in, buy a stamp mail, a postcard, anywhere on Earth. It will actually arrive. The postmaster Rinchen Chawang has reportedly been running this post office for years. Tourists come specifically to mail postcards from here. The world's highest post office stamp has become a collector's item. There is apparently a waiting list to get one during busy season. A working postal service at the edge of breathable air. The postmaster has worked this elevation for years. During operating season, the post office handles mail from researchers' trekkers' residents. In winter closure, mail accumulates and goes out in batches when the road reopens. Spiti doesn't ask for your ore. Monasteries, post offices, winter roads, all operating at elevations that make most other human infrastructure seem like it was built under suspiciously comfortable conditions. The name was given by German climbers in the 1930s. Fairy meadows. You don't arrive suddenly. First comes the road, one of the most dangerous mountain roads in Pakistan, carved into the cliffs above the Indus River. Then the road ends entirely, and the rest happens on foot. The trail climbs through pine forest, cold air, wet soil, tree roots crossing the path like cables. For long stretches, the mountain stays hidden behind the trees. You hear rivers somewhere below, but can't see them. Then the forest opens. The first thing you see is grass. Green, soft-looking grass. The kind you want to sit down in. Then you look up. It fits, sort of. The meadow is genuinely beautiful green, open, surrounded by pine forest at the base of the western Himalayas. Alpine flowers, air cold enough to be refreshing. The kind of place photographers camp for weeks to get the right light on the mountain. The mountain directly behind it is Nanga Parbat. Killer mountain. More than 30 climbers died here before the first successful summit in 1953. The casualty rate in those early decades was higher here than on Everest. Not just from difficulty, but from a specific quality, the mountain has a talent for sudden, massive, unpredictable violence. The 1937 expedition lost 16 climbers in a single night when an avalanche destroyed their high camp while they slept. 16. One night. Largest single loss of life in Himalayan climbing history at the time. The Rupal face visible directly from the meadow is the tallest mountain face on Earth. 4,600 meters of near vertical rise. Hanging glaciers release without warning. The avalanches reach the valley floor in under 3 minutes. From the meadow, they look like white brushstrokes on a painting. They carry several thousand tons of material at speeds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour. The meadow is real, the flowers are real, and the mountain has killed people standing exactly where you're standing now on days that started exactly like this one. Bivacco Buffa di Pereiro clings to a vertical wall on Monte Cristallo in the Italian Dolomites, more than 9,000 feet up, where the air thins and each step feels like it is taken at the edge of the sky. The little shelter was built out of ruins left over from the First World War, a scrap of hard history wedged between the rock and the clouds. It hangs on the cliff like a fragile wooden box, daring the drop directly below it. Steep faces and thread-thin paths surround it on every side, and the void falls away on all four. People call it one of the loneliest houses on the planet, and reaching it proves the point. You get there by clinging to an exposed Via Ferrata route up from Passo Croce, hand over hand, along the bare mountain, with nothing beneath you but distance. Out on the Mangistau Plateau, thousands of stone spheres lie scattered across the ground. Some are the size of a football. Some are bigger than a car. They look arranged, placed, like something cleared this ground and set them down on purpose. Nothing did. They're concretions minerals that slowly gathered around a small core under ancient sediment building. Outward, in layers like a pearl, grows around a grain of sand. The sea that covered all this evaporated something like 120 million years ago, and erosion eventually exposed the spheres it left behind. Several have cracked open over time, and the insides don't match the outside's different color, different texture, like a shell split to show something hidden in the middle. Of course, people came up with other explanations. Crashed craft, cosmic eggs, stand on that plane at sunset with long shadows stretching off 1,000 stone balls, and the wild theories at least make emotional sense around one of the world's most mysterious landforms. The eye stares up at the sky. This next place hides everything that matters underneath it. In central Turkey, tens of thousands of tall, pale cones rise out of the valleys, each one capped with a single dark boulder, balanced on top like stone mushrooms in a field that runs to the horizon. They formed the slow-way, ancient volcanic ash, hardened into soft rock. Then wind and water wore it down, except where a harder cap of basalt sat on top, shielding the column beneath. Erosion did the rest, leaving these thin towers holding up their stone hats. But the real surprise is underneath. Below this ancient landscape sit entire cities carved straight down into the rock. Tunnels, rooms, ventilation shafts, wells, reaching depths of over 260 feet. Tens of thousands of people once disappeared into them to hide from invading armies, sealing the entrances behind them and waiting in the dark. You can walk the surface and see fairy tale scenery with no idea a hidden world is sitting directly under your feet. Back to the mountains, but this time, the story isn't about survival. It's administrative, Spiti Valley, 12,000 to 15,000 feet above sea level, surrounded by mountains, blocking most weather, most visitors, and apparently any common sense about post office placement. In Hikim Village, at 14,567 feet, there is one. Counter, ink stamps, a staff member who has worked there for years. His commute involves altitude acclimatization. A tourist writes a postcard, slides it through the window. That card eventually drops into a mailbox somewhere flat and warm. The envelope says, Hikim, India, 14,567 feet. The recipient usually has no idea what that means. Sometimes people ask the postal worker what it's like working at the highest post office in the world. He says, "It's a post office. You stamp letters." During national elections, officials trek for days to set up a voting booth for fewer than 50 people. Folding table, ballot box, every election, never in question. Across the valley, Danka Monastery, 1,000 years old, sitting on a narrow cliff with no architectural reason to still be standing. The monks ring the same bells at the same times. The post office worker stamps letters at the same altitude. The Indian government requires a post office in every village above a certain population threshold. Hikim qualifies. Bureaucracy does not care about altitude. Stay one moment longer. In spring, apricot blossoms spread across the valley and terraced farms. Villages sit quietly beneath the mountains as the seasons change. People move slowly through daily life, sitting outdoors, talking, watching the landscape, letting time pass with the view. A narrow column of rock rising straight into the sky looks placed there deliberately. It doesn't look natural, but it is. As spring turns into summer, the valley shifts into harvest. Apricots are gathered in large quantities and laid out to dry across rooftops, open ground, and village spaces. The scent of fruit drifts through the air, carried between the mountains. Dried apricots are stored and shared as part of everyday life. Visitors often receive small gifts of fruit, a simple expression of hospitality found throughout the region. The Qinghai-Tibet Railway runs about 200 miles across one of the most punishing high plateaus on Earth, ranking among the highest railways in the world. Around 85% of the track sits above 13,000 feet, and passengers ride through air so thin that even sitting still breathing becomes work. Finished in 2006, the line pushed through frozen terrain that experts had long insisted could never carry a railway at all. The window is never dull for long. The journey slides past wetlands, open grasslands, and the permanent snow-capped mountains of Tibet, one giving way to the next. And you feel the altitude in your own body, the pressure shifting inside you as the train climbs toward the very top of the plateau. Longyearbyen on the Svalbard archipelago of Norway is one of the most remote towns on Earth, and the place itself has a strange reputation here. In a sense, you are not allowed to die. truth behind it is stranger still. The ground is frozen so hard all year round that buried bodies never decompose. So for decades, the town has not allowed new burials, and anyone who falls gravely ill is sent to the mainland. The cold has the final say, even over death. Winter does not just bring cold, it brings the dark. For months from November into February, the sun never rises at all, and the whole town lives under a blue-black sky around the clock. They call it the polar night. And out beyond the last houses, this is polar bear country. The animals here can weigh as much as 1,500 pounds, and stepping outside town limits without a rifle is not just unwise, it is against the rules. So why live here at all? Longyearbyen began as a coal town in the early 20th century, and today it guards something precious for all of us. The Svalbard Global Seed Vault, buried in the permafrost with more than 1 million seed samples, a backup of the world's crops in case of disaster. Around 2,000 people still live here, going to work, walking kids to school, buying groceries, raising families in the dark, in the cold, beside the bears. The Dogon people live along the Bandiagara escarpment. In Mali, a long wall of cliffs in West Africa, where ancient villages cling to the rock, and their everyday genius is built right into their architecture. At the center of every village stands a low open shelter called the Toguna, the House of Words. It is where the men gather to talk through disputes and make decisions for the community, all in one place. Its secret is the roof. The Toguna is roofed with thick layers of millet stalk, stacked so low that no one can stand up inside it. Everyone has to stay seated, and that is the point. If an argument boils over, and a man's instinct is to leap to his feet and square up to the person across from him, the roof stops him cold. He cracks his head on it and drops back down. The building itself forces tempers to cool. The Dogon designed peace into the height of a ceiling. Their granaries hold another quiet kind of wisdom. Men and women keep entirely separate ones. The man's holds the family's grain, but the woman's is hers alone, for her own goods and her own savings, and her husband may not look inside without her permission. In a society with no banks and no contracts, that small mud granary is a woman's independence protected by a rule no one breaks. Taos Pueblo in New Mexico is one of the oldest continuously inhabited communities in North America, a cluster of earthen buildings that has stood for more than 1,000 years. To picture that when the first walls went up here, the Roman Empire was already ancient history, and the United States would not exist for another 8 centuries. Yet families still live in these same rooms today, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that never became a ruin. Around 150 people still keep homes in the old structures, living without electricity or running water, just as their ancestors did. The walls are adobe compressed earth, mixed with clay and straw and water shaped into bricks and dried in the sun, then stacked more than 3 feet thick. That thickness is the whole trick it holds: the cool through the scorching desert summer and the warmth through winters when snow lies on the rooftops. And every year, the community comes together to re-plaster those walls, by hand, the same care passed down through 40 generations. The building survives because the people keep choosing to keep it alive. Tristan da Cunha is a tiny British territory in the South Atlantic, set almost exactly between South Africa and South America, and it holds a lonely record. It is the most remote inhabited island on Earth. The nearest neighbor with any real population is St. Helena, the island where Napoleon was exiled, and that is still 1,500 miles of open ocean away. There is no airport. There is no way to fly in or out. The only way to reach Tristan is by ship, 6 days each way from Cape Town, through some of the roughest seas on the planet, and supply boats come only a few times a year. If you fall seriously ill here, you wait for a ship. About 250 people live in the single settlement with the wonderful name Edinburgh of the Seven Seas, and nearly all of them descend from a handful of original settlers. Most share one of just 7 surnames. Meet someone on Tristan, and you are almost certainly meeting a cousin. And here is the thing: they decided at the very edge of the world. No one owns land. Not a single square foot. All of it is held in common, and no amount of money can buy a piece of it. A fisherman and a millionaire stand on exactly equal ground. Several times a year, the whole island stops for what they call Potato Patches Day, when every able person rides out together to plant or dig the fields that feed everyone. The potatoes feed them all, so they all plant them. In the most isolated community on Earth, the answer to survival was never to compete harder. It was to stop competing at all. Along the Pacific edge of Hawaii in the United States, molten rock still pours out of the earth and reshapes the coastline in real time. This is the youngest land on the entire planet. Sheets of fresh black basalt cover mile after mile ground that did not exist a generation ago. Walk it, and it fights back. The cooled lava is jagged enough to slice through the thickest boot soles after only a few miles, and the coast itself can give way without warning. Slabs weighing thousands of pounds breaking off and sliding into the deep ocean. One mountain here, measured from its base on the sea floor, stands around 33,000 feet tall, taller even than Everest. Rivers of lava have added over 500 acres of brand new land in just a few decades, and the terrain is so raw that NASA once trained astronauts on it for Mars. Even so, fresh green ferns push up through the cracks in the black rock life, returning almost before the stone has cooled. On the white granite shoulders of Mount Huashan in China's Shanxi province, Taoist pilgrims have climbed toward the sky for well over 1,000 years. This is one of the country's 5 sacred mountains. Near the top, more than 7,000 feet up the trail, does something no trail should do. It runs out of mountain. What is left is the plank walk, a line of narrow wooden boards, bolted to a sheer vertical cliff with iron chains for your hands and open air for everything else. The people who first opened this path did not carve it for sport. It was a route of devotion, a way to reach hermit caves and shrines that clung to the rock where the world dropped away on every side. They drove wooden planks, iron pins, and chains straight into the cliff face, then trusted them with their lives. From the valley below, the walk looks like a single splinter of wood stuck to the stone, so thin it seems impossible that anyone crosses it at all. People still do. The boards are barely wider than your own boots. The moment your weight leaves solid ground, the mountain stops being scenery and turns into something you feel in your chest, the cold of the chain in your fist, the wind tugging at your jacket, the long quiet of the drop beneath your heels. It remains one of the most spine-chilling bucket list climbs on Earth, and the ones who opened it had no harness, no helmet, and no way down but the way they came. In Sichuan province, 3 rivers slam together at the foot of a cliff, and carved into that cliff sits the largest stone Buddha in the world. The Leshan giant Buddha rises about 233 feet from feet to crown, so vast that a grown adult standing on one of its toes barely reaches the top of the foot. The story behind it starts with drowning. Where the Min, the Dadu, and the Qingyi rivers met, the water turned violent and pulled boats and fishermen under. In the year 713, a monk named Haitong began cutting a Buddha into the cliff, believing a calm, stone face watching the current would settle the rivers below. He never saw it finished. The work passed to other hands and took nearly 90 years, ending around 803. What lifts it past being a giant statue is how it came to be. Haitong's workers did not build a Buddha and set it down. They freed it from the mountain itself, releasing the head, the shoulders, the folded hands, and the legs out of solid sandstone. Tucked inside the hair, the collar, and behind the ears runs a quiet system of drainage channels that carries rainwater away so the soft stone will not rot from within. The shoulders alone span about 92 feet. A single finger runs close to 27 feet longer than two cars parked end to end. Angel's Landing rises out of Zion National Park in Utah in the United States, a fin of red rock standing 488 feet above the valley floor. The view from the top is extraordinary, and getting there is a genuine test of nerve. The final stretch narrows to just a few feet wide, with sheer drops falling away on both sides. The only thing to hold is a line of metal chains, first bolted into the rock back in 1926, worn smooth by a century of gripping hands. There are no railings along the 5.5-mile route, and every step near the top asks you to trust your own footing over a very long fall. Demand grew so high that visitors now need a special permit just to attempt it, a bucket list climb that keeps a tight limit on how many people face the edge each day. Studlagil Canyon, Iceland. Stop, look at those columns, count the sides. 6. Every single one, 6 sides. Perfectly symmetrical, perfectly geometric, stacked on top of each other like nature decided to become an engineer. Studlagil Canyon, and those columns aren't carved, they aren't built, they grew. When lava cools very slowly and evenly, it contracts, and as it contracts, it cracks, and those cracks always form hexagons, because the hexagon is the most efficient shape for distributing stress across a surface. Your lava field follows the same geometry as a honeycomb, as a soap bubble cluster, as the compound eye of a dragonfly. The planet doesn't know that. It just follows physics, and physics apparently really likes hexagons. The river running through this canyon is glacial melt, achingly cold, brilliant turquoise, cutting through columns of ancient black basalt laid down over 9 million years ago. You're standing between two timescales the human brain cannot actually process. The river is moving right now, carving this canyon millimeter by millimeter. The rock it's cutting through has been here since before humans existed as a species. The canyon was only made accessible to the public after 2019, when a river diversion finally revealed these columns. Before that, this place was completely underwater. The Earth kept this secret for 9 million years, and it only showed it to us by accident. Take a breath. You've just watched the Earth in Iceland alone go from an 800-year-old eruption creating new land to a 9-million-year-old hidden canyon made of perfect hexagons. Now, leave Iceland behind, because the story of what this planet is capable of doesn't stay geological for long. It gets biological, and it gets brutal. Katmai National Park, Alaska. In 1912, Mount Novarupta, inside what is now Katmai National Park, erupted in the largest volcanic eruption of the 20th century, larger than Krakatoa, larger than Mount St. Helens, 1,000 times more powerful than an atomic bomb. It buried the surrounding valley in 700 feet of volcanic ash and superheated gas. The ash plume reached 100,000 feet into the sky. Crops failed in Europe. Temperatures dropped globally. For years after, the valley was called the Valley of 10,000 Smokes, because steam and gas continued to vent from thousands of cracks in the ash field. Nothing could live here. And yet, today, over 2,200 brown bears call Katmai home. Every year in late summer, they gather at Brooks Falls, a single waterfall on the Brooks River, to catch sockeye salmon leaping upstream. A mature male bear here can weigh 1,400 pounds by the time winter comes. He'll eat 20,000 calories a day during peak season. Just 110 years ago, this valley was buried under hundreds of feet of ash. Now it feeds the largest congregation of bears on Earth. That is not a feel-good story. That's the planet demonstrating its indifference to catastrophe. Life doesn't ask for permission to come back. It just does. We just watch the Earth destroy itself and rebuild. Fire geometry life returning from ash. But what happens when you take the idea of survival and push it past what should be physically possible? What happens when survival isn't about coming back from disaster, but about choosing to live somewhere that should already be killing you? And it starts in the dark. High in the mountains of Nepal, the Gurung people gather honey the way their ancestors did on the faces of vertical cliffs that would stop most of us cold. Sheer stone walls rise well over 300 feet, splitting the world into open sky above and a deep drop below with nothing in between but the hunter and the rock. The way up is almost unbelievable. Hunters move along thin cracks on handmade rope ladders, swaying in the wind, working toward the ledges where the hives hang. There, the giant Himalayan honeybees build combs that can weigh well over 100 pounds, and the honey inside is no ordinary sweetness. It is the famous mad honey, laced with compounds strong enough to make the head spin, prized for its rare medicinal power. They do this with no harness and no safety gear, only smoke long poles and skill passed down across generations, trusting a rope of woven grass over a fall that would end everything. It is not really about the honey. It is about what a person will hang from and reach for to hold on to a way of life. And maybe that is the thread running through all of these places. We build our fires in the treetops, weave our bridges out of grass, and paint our houses bright against the endless dark, then step out onto the thinnest ledge the world allows and call it home. The planet was never gentle. We just keep finding ways to stand on its sharpest edges for a little while and look out. Every place in this journey shared one thing. The world was here long before us, shaping fire and ice and stone on a scale we can barely hold in our heads. We do not conquer these places. At best, we visit, we hold our breath, and we leave them exactly as we found them. That is the strange pull of the most extreme corners of Earth. They do not make you feel powerful. They make you feel briefly, honestly small, standing at the edge of something far older than anything we will ever build. There are more of them out there than one journey could ever hold. Stay with us, and we will keep reaching the places most people only ever see from a safe distance.